This next video represents chromatic half steps. Make sure to use your keyboard on page 37. Chromatic half steps are half steps that use the same letter name, but you need to utilize accidentals to make the notes a half step away from each other. So, immediately I know I need a chromatic half step above and below this F. What kind of F is a half step higher than F natural? It's an F sharp. F sharp is a half step higher than F. So there's our first one. Now the second one. If I flat this F, now this F is a half step below F natural. So we have F to F sharp, that's a half step, and F to F flat, that's a half step. I used the same letter name, but I used accidentals to make this work. Now we have an A. First thing I do for chromatic half steps is draw two more A's. Now I need to make them a half step above and below the first A. A half step above A would be A sharp. A half step below would be A flat. See the pattern here? When you start with a natural note, all you have to do is sharp the next note and flat the following note. That gives you a half step above and below. Now, when I start with a sharp, it's the same thing. You still write two more C's. In this case, this is a C sharp. What kind of C is a half step higher than C sharp? And your answer will be C double sharp. C double sharp is a half step higher than C sharp. And what kind of C is a half step lower than C sharp? Your answer should be C natural. And there you go. Now for this D flat, same thing. You draw two more D's. So, what kind of D is a half step higher than D flat? And that is D natural. And what kind of D is a half step lower than D flat? Well, D double flat is a half step lower than D flat. C. Draw two more C's. What kind of C is a half step higher? Sorry, I dropped my cap. What kind of C is a half step higher than C? And that is C sharp. And what kind of C is a half step lower than C? C flat. See, you can reference these right here. Same idea. These ones are a little different because you started with a sharp there and you started with a flat here. The last one, we have an E. Draw my two E's. I need a half step above and below. E sharp is a half step above E. E flat is a half step below E. This concludes our video on chromatic half steps. Make sure to use your keyboard.